Welcome, dreamer. Tonight, I'll take you far beyond the edges of maps, to a world where wonder still walks, and kindness flies with wings of fire and light. In this story, there is no kingdom to conquer, no treasure to find, only a girl with hair like spun sunlight, and a dragon born from the breath of morning. She does not seek glory. She listens. She heals. And where she goes, the wind grows still, sorrow softens, and the stars seem to lean in just a little closer. Let the gentle notes of the flute carry you into her world. A world of quiet magic, of wild skies, and a heart brave enough to wonder. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. And let the story begin. The golden-haired girl and the dragon of the dawn. In a quiet corner of the world where the sea touched the sky, there lived a girl with hair spun from sunlight and a heart too big for any single village. They called her Lyra, meaning a lighty in the old tongue. She came from no known place, arrived with no family or past, only a soft smile and eyes that shimmered like dawn over the ocean. No one knew where she had come from. One morning, after a storm that cracked the sky open with silver fire, she simply appeared in the village square, her golden braid heavy with raindrops and her bare feet muddy from walking the world. And beside her stood a creature of stories and stars, a dragon. But not the kind told in frightened whispers. He was slender, long, and iridescent, with wings that shimmered like oil in sunlight and eyes old as the moon. His name was Caerun, and where he flew, the air carried the scent of honeyed fire and blooming wildflowers. They were never apart. Some say she found him as an egg in a field of frost. Others claim he found her crying in the ruins of a forgotten tower. But no one really knew, and neither ever said. They didn't come to stay. They came to heal. And so, the tale begins, with a girl of golden hair and a dragon of dawnlight, setting out from the edge of the known world, seeking not adventure, but sorrow in need of kindness. Their first journey led them across the river of mirrors, where the water was so still it held the sky like a secret. Villagers along its banks had stopped speaking in song. They whispered now, afraid to raise their voices. A shadow had taken root in the reeds, a sorrow that curled around the ankles of children and crept into dreams. Lyra and Caerun arrived at dusk. The dragon's wings stirred the still air, and golden light spilled from her braid as she knelt by the river's edge. She didn't ask what was wrong. She listened. The villagers came slowly, one by one, drawn to her calm presence, and the warm breath of the dragon curled behind her. A child finally spoke, voice trembling. The river no longer reflects our faces, only our fears. Lyra nodded gently, her hand brushing the surface of the water. It quivered. Caerun lowered his long neck and dipped a single claw into the shallows, where a shimmer bloomed, like a star unraveling. That night, Lyra sang a song without words. Just tones, slow, rising like mist. The dragon added his voice, deep and ancient, like stones remembering sunlight. By morning, the river of mirrors reflected the clouds again. Birds returned to sing. Children laughed without shadows trailing behind their steps. Lyra smiled softly. She and Caerun never stayed for thanks. Their gift was in the leaving, in the quiet restoration of wonder. They flew east, where the wind carried stories, and the horizon called her name like a lullaby only she could hear. They flew low over fields painted gold with wheaten poppies, Caerun's wings casting fleeting shadows like brushstrokes across the earth. Villages blurred beneath them, some laughing, some silent, others holding their breath as if waiting for something long forgotten. Lyra did not speak often. She didn't need to. Her presence was like dew on a leaf or the hush before snowfall. Caerun, though mighty and bright, moved with the care of a whisper, never disturbing what did not need mending. In the valley of Bream, the sun hadn't risen in 3 weeks. The people there lived in twilight, their clocks ticking without change, and dreams turning brittle with repetition. They arrived in silence, gliding down like a falling petal. The villagers stood frozen, unsure if they should believe their eyes. Lyra stepped forward, hair catching what little light remained. Caerun folded his wings and lay beside her, his breath warming the cold earth. A woman emerged, clutching a time-worn locket. "We've been forgotten," Ishi said. "No," Lyra replied softly. "You've simply forgotten the way to Dorn." That night, Lyra scattered poppy seeds in a circle, and Caerun breathed gently over them. Flames did not rise, but warmth did, steady, pulsing. By morning, the sun climbed over the ridge for the first time in 22 days. The people wept. The clocks ticked forward. The valley exhaled. And again, Lyra and Caerun moved on, like wind slipping through fingers. They came to a town made of glass, tall towers glinting under the moon, windows like silver eyes that never blinked. The people walked carefully, afraid of making a sound that might crack the world around them. Children were taught not to run. Laughter was discouraged. Even tears, when shed, were caught in soft cloth so their salt wouldn't mark the floor. Caerun's talons tapped softly on the cobbled way. His breath fogged the air, revealing warmth where none dared admit it. Lyra walked barefoot, unafraid, her steps leaving trails of golden dust. She met a boy who had never spoken. He carried a flute he never played. When she sat beside him, she didn't ask for music. She just listened to the silence. That night, as stars blinked into being, Caerun curled around the glass plaza. Lyra handed the boy a small thread of morning light, drawn from her braid. He tied it to the end of his flute and played. The sound was barely more than breath, but it shimmered. Glass rippled. Not shattered, softened. People emerged from their homes. One by one, they began to hum. Quietly, carefully, and for the first time in generations, the town of glass didn't crack. It danced. They wandered far, through whispering forests, over oceans that dreamed in blue, across cities made of salt and bone, shadow and song. Everywhere they went, Lyra and Caerun left no monument. Only stillness. Only peace. They came to a mountain where no birds flew, and the snow fell upward. Here lived a man who had spoken to no one in 50 winters. He carved ice into mirrors but never looked into them. Lyra didn't knock. She sat outside his cave, building a small fire, singing softly. Caerun perched above, silent as snowfall. The man watched from the shadows. After 3 days, he came forward with a mirror carved into the shape of a dragon's wing. Lyra smiled, not at the mirror, but at him. "Thank you," Ishi said. And the mountain, long silent, sighed with relief. Legends began to form, though Lyra never lingered to hear them. Some said her hair held the light of the first sunrise. Others claimed Caerun was born from a fallen star. A few believed they were spirits, sent to remind the world of balance. But the truth was simpler. They were kindness. Wandering, unasked for, yet always arriving at the right time. One village, nestled in a forest of silver-leaf trees, had forgotten music. Their instruments were buried, their voices dulled by fear. They had lost someone beloved, not to war, but to silence. Lyra didn't speak. She simply danced. Slowly, like mist over water. With each step, her golden braid swayed, catching moonlight like a ribbon of fire. Caerun hummed, a low, vibrating sound that touched the bones. An old man reached for a drum. A girl found her voice. The forest listened, and then joined in, branches swaying, leaves clapping softly. Music returned. Sometimes, they faced sorrow they could not heal. In one place, a field had been burned black by cruelty. No one lived there anymore. No one dared. Lyra knelt and pressed her hands into the ash. Caerun roared, not in anger, but in grief, a sound that bent the air and made the stars blink. They did not try to restore what had been. Instead, they planted seeds, not of flowers, but of stories. Later, children would play there, not knowing why the ground felt warm beneath their feet or why the wind always sang lullabies as it passed. That was enough. Lyra's hair grew longer, streaked with silver light. Caerun's wings grew wider, edged with flame. But neither aged. They simply deepened, like rivers carved over time. In a desert land where people lived among dunes and silence, they met a queen who had lost her dreams. She wore gold and pearls but hadn't slept in years. Lyra offered no potion, no charm. She placed a single feather from Caerun's wing beneath the queen's pillow. That night, the queen dreamed of wind, of stars, of being a child again. When she woke, she wept softly and ordered the palace gates open to the poor. Sometimes, the smallest gift changed the largest heart. They came at last to a cliff where the world was said to end. Nothing lay beyond but sky and song. Lyra stood at the edge, hair glowing, Caerun beside her. "Are we done?" She whispered. Caerun looked at her, and in his eyes was the reflection of everyone they'd helped, a chorus of faces. Tears turned to smiles, silence turned to song. Lyra breathed in. The wind curled around them like a warm shawl. And then, with a laugh like bells, she stepped into the sky. Caerun followed, wings unfurling like sunrise. Some say they became constellations, the girl of golden hair and the dragon of dawnlight. Others say they still walk the edges of the world, where sorrow lingers, where a touch of warmth is needed. But in every story told by firelight, in every dream where kindness takes flight, they live on. When a stranger smiles with no reason, when a child dares to sing again, when a field once broken blooms, that is Lyra. That is Caerun. And that is the magic of a heart that wanders, or only to heal. And so, beneath a sky brushed with dawnlight, the golden-haired girl and her dragon flew beyond the last horizon. They left no footprints, no flag, no crown. Only warmth. Only wonder. Only the memory of a quiet kindness that lingers where sorrow once lived. Perhaps, one night, you'll hear the soft beat of wings above your dreams. Or feel a warmth pass through your heart, light as breath, deep as sleep. That will be them. Still wandering, still healing, still near. Now rest, gentle soul. Let the soft melody guide you into sleep. And let your dreams carry the light they left behind. Good night. you.